Hello, welcome again to Fair Tax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And we are the Fair Tax Guys. Still trying to get rid of the Internal Revenue Service and the income tax, or let's do it the other way, the income tax and the Internal Revenue Service that comes with it. We want to do our patriotic duty and get rid of everything that's un-American.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we're doing our best every week with our half-hour show of Fair Tax Power Radio to give you some good information, and hopefully you'll share it with your friends and neighbors and all across social media, because we're everywhere.
Yeah, so if you're watching the live stream here, hit the share button, let your family and friends know about what we're doing, because we are trying to work for everyone's benefit.
Yeah.
I don't know I take that back. I do know some people who benefit from the income tax.
Yeah.
And those are the Congress critters and the lobbyists up there that are using the payroll tax system, income payroll tax system, to, as Steve Hayes likes to say in his chairman's reports a lot, enrich themselves at our expense.
Yeah,
which is exactly
I wonder just how many lobbyists are up there.
Oh, we'll get into that pretty quickly. But I'll tell you, before we get going, we need to mention our IRS Made contest.
Yeah.
We got a really good entry the other day from Ted Davis. Found he's in Tacoma, Washington. He had a tree swing where the ropes are attached to branches on either side of the trunk so that the swing would have to run into the trunk. That's insane. We'll put that picture up there for those watching the video. You'll just kind of have to imagine it in your mind if you're listening to a podcast or on one of the radio stations. But we're going to run this contest through the end of September.
Yeah.
So if you have an idea, if the IRS made, you can pick any product you want and just illustrate what it would look like if the IRS made tree swings. They'd have their, the ropes would be on either side of the trunk so you couldn't swing through it.
Yeah.
A handgun, we've got that one with the barrel pointing backwards. There's lots of things that you can get into. And we're going to award a first, second, and third prize. We've got Fair Tax gear galore to give out to folks.
Yeah.
And as a matter you want to mention, the reason we've got all that stuff is because they redid the logo store.
Yep.
They
right.
had to move some of the inventory out, and now there is a new version of the logo store.
Yep, it's called fairtaxstore.org. It's very simple, fairtaxstore.org. All right, there's not quite the variety of items that there used to be, because the couple that was running the store for us before, they're slowly retiring, and so one of our board members has taken over the store, and we're kind of scaled it down, but there are many items there, hats and shirts and so forth. So go to fairtaxstore.org and pick out what you want. They ship once a week, all right, because the guy does have a full-time job.
Indeed. Okay, who's your Grassroots Corner about this week?
Okay, Grassroots Corner is written by Jim Bennett. He's the Grassroots Director with the AFFT. That's the national organization. You can go to fairtax.org and sign up there if you haven't already, and you'll get these weekly updates. Jim, and if you have anything of the grassroots nature to send to Jim, it's jim.bennett@fairtax.org. Bennett has 2 N's and 2 T's. This one is a call to action, Doug's self-assigned project, and he talks about Doug Dash of Collingswood, New Jersey, who assigned himself a project, and he undertook to contact the offices of Republican members of Congress who are Fair Tax co-sponsors, and asked them to contact their colleagues. All right, everybody. Now, right now, as it stands, we only have Republican co-sponsors, which is too bad. We need people on both sides of the aisle promoting the fair tax.
The fair tax is something that everybody should like. It's non-ideological, and there's something, I don't know anybody that wouldn't like a bigger paycheck because withholding goes away, So whatever.
So if you sign up at fairtax.org, you'll get this weekly email, the chairman's report from Steve Hayes, and you'll get an update on Fair Tax Power Radio. You don't have to contribute anything if you can't afford it, but if you can, they do have sizable expenses each month. So,
all right. Well, if you want to address your Republican representative and try to get them on board with look at last week's Fair Tax Power Radio episode. That was all about why Republicans should support the fair tax, how the fair tax lines up with their published platform.
Yep.
So if you haven't seen that episode, you need to check that out. And of course, you just try to get as many people on both sides of the aisle on board with a fair tax, because we need to get rid of the income tax system.
No,
That we do.
We really do. I mean, it's hurting us, people. It hurts the economy. It hurts individuals. The IRS lords over us like subjects instead of citizens. It's a bad idea. We really need to get rid of the income tax.
That we do. And I tell you what, this episode is going to air on the 1st of September.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
Do you know what the 1st of September means?
Well, here in Florida, it's usually a good time for hurricanes.
This is the peak of the hurricane system, or hurricane season.
Yeah.
Is starting here, and of course we're trying not to be too Florida centric. But of course, hurricanes make the news whenever and wherever they are. They don't only hit Florida.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, it makes you wonder if you see Jim Cantore. Look out.
Yeah, you know there's
I don't know what it is with him. Either the Weather Channel doesn't like him or he's a glutton for punishment. He shows up at every place where a hurricane is coming ashore. But I'm telling you what we need a nice, big, strong Category 5 hurricane. Yes, we do.
Wait a minute.
We need a Category 5 hurricane.
Those are very dangerous. What are you talking about?
Okay. Well, let me elaborate on that a little bit. I am not talking about the kind that comes ashore and blows people's houses and businesses away. I would not wish that on anybody.
All right.
So make no mistake about it. I do not wish a real Category 5 hurricane on anybody anywhere. But I do wish a Category 5 hurricane force on the income tax system.
Okay, that I'm all in favor of.
That it is fair. We saw on the Congress.gov segment last week that they are giving tax breaks for certain disaster resilient properties.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that the income tax so far has been disaster resilient. They can weather just about anything, but it's going to take a Category 5 force to dislodge the income tax system. I mean, you hear all the time that the fair tax is certainly superior to the income tax, but it'll never pass because the Congress critters will never allow it.
Yeah.
Well, they will if you send them a Category 5 hurricane and blow their system right out of the window.
That's right.
But it was interesting. I was talking to Steve. I wanted to find out the magnitude and illustrate the magnitude of what we as fair tax supporters are up against trying to replace the income tax system. Because you know who inhabits the income tax system? Lobbyists.
Yeah. Oh, boy,
they make a fortune off of lobby. And I was trying to find, looking for information about how much is spent, how many different lobbyists there are that are spending money and trying to influence Congress critters on tax policy, and I really couldn't find it broken down by subject matter like that, so how much it is. But if you just look, Steve Hayes sent us to a site called opensecrets.org.
Yeah.
And there is a federal lobbying section in there that details the numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
The
You figure
amount of
there's
money-
400 or 535 congressmen and senators.
Yes,
So
500.
maybe there's a couple hundred lobbyists, you know?
Yeah, well, give them the numbers off the graphic there. How many different lobbyists there are? And we'll have to do the math. We'll figure out the ratio. How many lobbyists per Congress critter there are?
I'm going back to 2019 because obviously 2020 is incomplete. So there's no point in having incomplete data. Okay, the number of lobbyists, according to this chart on opensecrets.org, in 2019 is right around 12,000 lobbyists working.
12,000 lobbyists for 535 members of Congress.
I can't imagine being a congressman in office, and you're going to have these people wanting to come and talk to you like all the time, all hours of the day and night.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But one of the things that this opensecrets.org did have was the number of bills. They would list by the bills that were being lobbied.
Oh.
And so there are just some staggering numbers here that I'd like to look at. Top of the list, the CARES Act. Of course, that's the Corona relief thing that was
That was this year, right?
That was this year. At the HR 748, if you want to go look it up. Can you imagine? Take a wild guess, folks, before I tell you. Take a wild guess how many different lobbying clients were lobbying, trying to influence Congress on that one bill alone.
What, a couple hundred?
No,
Ding.
time's up. 1,939 different clients were trying to lobby the CARES Act. That is insane. And you open this up and you say, how in the world, what interest do some of these people have in the CARES Act? Nike Incorporated was lobbying the CARES Act.
Nike.
In the CARES Act.
Sneakers.
Verizon, the wireless company, was lobbying the CARES Act. United Airlines, Delta Airlines, the Credit Union National Association, Intuit, those are the people who make TurboTax,
Yeah.
Boeing. Now, tell me what commercial jets have to do with the CARES Act. But Boeing Company, that builds commercial airliners and some military aircraft as well, they were lobbying the CARES Act. So was Comcast, Capital One Finance. I mean, there are like 1,960 records here on that, and that's just the first 25. But what in the world? Why is there that much lobbying on that one bill?
Yeah. And the amount spent on lobbying, again, I'm going back to 2019, all right? The total amount of money spent on lobbying. Now, this is not just for the income tax, as Bob already said. This is for all lobbying, because we couldn't find how to narrow it down to just income.
It wouldn't break it down just to tax legislation.
It gives you an idea. The total spent on lobbying in 2019 was $3.51 billion. Billion with a B, as in Bravo. All right? $3.51 billion spent on lobbying. And where does that money go? Yeah.
Right into the campaign coffers of your Congress critters, for mostly.
Is it coincidental that a number of these people go to Congress as wealthy businessmen but come out as millionaires?
Yeah, some aren't even wealthy businessmen to start with.
Yeah,
There's
that's
some
right.
folks that are just kind of like just you and I.
Yeah,
that would be there, and
So,
but that's it. It is insane what else is in here. Let's see look at another one. The Lower Health Care Cost Act. 275 different lobbyists lobbying the Lower Health Care Cost Act, and look who we find again. American Dental Association, you would expect that. Cigna, the insurance companies, American Medical Association. But if you dig in again, you will find that Boeing is lobbying that one as well. I really want to figure out what they are doing with that. But are you beginning to get the picture? Do you see what a firmly entrenched when there's a lot of money at stake, it's really hard to change that system.
Yeah.
Why they would want to do that. And it is exactly what it's going to take, because billions and billions of dollars, no doubt, are spent annually trying to get Congress critters to change the tax code. We look at it every other episode here on Fair Tax Power Radio with Congress.gov. And you can look at it and you can just about see which lobby is behind which proposal.
Yeah. And I know from previous experience, if you look at the different categories of lobbying interests, pharmaceuticals is way up there. Tax interests are way up there, number one or number two.
Yeah,
so a lot. This
OpenSecrets.org here is a really good site. You can just kind of poke around and find stuff. Here's the list of all of the industries that are lobbying Congress. Again, pharmaceuticals and health products is the first, with $156,581,957.
Wow.
Electronics manufacturers, insurance companies, oil and gas companies, electric utilities, air transport, I guess that's where Boeing comes from, and telecommunication services, health professionals, education, internet providers, automotive, all of these people, commercial banks. Now, TVs, movies, and music, the entertainment industry is lobbying against people.
Well, as far as the tax part of it, we know that the income tax insinuates itself into every aspect of American life. So it's not surprising you see lobbyists from all sectors, all business sectors, all interest sectors of the country.
You can get into under the contribution section. It will list the top contributors. Now, nobody will know any of these people's names. These are the lobbyists themselves and how much money they have distributed. At the top of the list is C. Boyden Gray, who I have no clue who that is. But that one lobbyist alone has handed out over $1 million.
Good heavens.
Actually, over $1.5 million. $1,525,555. All of it went to very small, 35,000 of it went to Super PAC. All the rest went to Republicans. And it breaks down on this thing where each lobbyist is donating to. So we got a lot of them that are donating huge amounts to one party and very little, if anything, to the other.
Yeah.
And the Super PAC. So it's really interesting to see this. But again, the whole system is just full of this stuff. You see how much cash is being handed out. The second biggest lobbyist, $472,000, and this is in 2020. This is we're a little better than halfway through the year.
Yeah.
So that amount is going to go up by the end of the year for sure. But and the top recipients, a while back, Steve Hayes had a chairman's report listing by name the Congress critters that were getting the most of the lobbyist
that was
money.
interesting.
That's where we just found out. This is much where he got that list from.
Yep.
So, but if you want to see just how big a problem lobbying is in Washington, D.C., 8 of the 10 richest counties in the country are right around the D.C. area.
Gee, funny thing about that.
And we're trying to dislodge that system.
Yeah. And they're fighting back tooth and nail.
Oh, that they are. That's why it's going to take a Cat 5 hurricane force directed against them to get rid of this system. Because the income payroll tax system obviously is not the only thing that gets lobbied. But that gets lobbied really, really heavily. Because we were looking last week, it's over 1,900 hits now. If you go to congress.gov and search on Internal Revenue Code, there are over 1,900 hits.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact number.
Proposals to change the tax code.
And some of them can be really nasty.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a list of the things that could happen if the lobbyists have their way and certain political candidates have their way.
Yes, I mentioned Steve Hayes' weekly chairman's report, and the one for September 21st, he talks about some of the proposals that Mr. Biden has as he's running for president. But further down in the report, it says the Internal Revenue Code, for example, could be amended to provide, and he lists some of these that people are thinking about. Okay, the IRAs valued at over $100 will owe income tax on the increase in value from the previous year. Wait a minute, you haven't. Your IRA is stuck away in an investment or a savings account someplace. You're not touching it, but they want to tax it.
They want to tax it even though you're not drawing it out.
Yeah.
However, what happens if you use money from that IRA to pay the tax?
Well, it doesn't go into that kind of detail.
Oh, yes, it does. Right there, look at the bottom line.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Says, however, if
trying to set you up here, Rob.
Okay, if you use the money from the IRA to pay these new taxes, you will have to pay an additional 10% penalty.
I can see Ed Hockley throwing the flag again. Oh, and I just found something. Let me interrupt you here for just a second. Again, back on the opensecrets.org, you can see by issue what issues are being lobbied. The federal budget and appropriations was the top of the list. Taxes is third on the list. 1,775 clients.
Wow.
Employing 3,661 lobbyists lobbying on taxes.
Just for taxes? 3,000?
Just for taxes. 3,661 lobbyists on behalf of 1,775 clients. Again, these figures are coming from opensecrets.org. And this is for 2020. And so mean that the year is incomplete. Those numbers are likely to rise by the end of the year.
Yeah.
But taxes are the third most lobbied issue.
So is it any wonder that there's almost 2,000 proposals to change the tax code so far in the 116th Congress? And it's not the end of the 116th Congress yet?
Yeah. So how do you like your tax code being manipulated by this many different people with this many different special interests, none of them which have your interest at heart? But that's it. I just found that. That is the third most lobbied issue
Wow.
in the federal government, just behind the federal budget and health issues.
That's amazing.
Ahead of transportation, ahead of defense.
Ahead of defense.
Ahead of trade, ahead of Medicare, Medicaid, ahead of education, ahead of a lot of stuff is the lobbying effort done on taxes. We may need a Cat 6 to blow these away. All right, what else can happen to the tax code?
Well, let's see. The next one says all estates over $1 million. Okay, well, that most of us say that's not going to pertain to us. But if they can start at $1 million, guess what? They can bring that threshold down.
Drop it and drop it and drop it.
So all estates over $1 million would be taxable at a rate, sit down, between 40 and 80%.
You serious?
Yeah, between 40 and 80%. They have an unquenchable thirst for our money, and that's an example of it. Okay.
This isn't law yet, but it's stuff that could happen. Because again, all it takes is for something to pass Congress and the president to sign it, and especially if one party has control of all three, House, Senate, and the presidency, God knows what they could put through. Either side could do it.
And if Steve put these in his chairman's report, chances are that somebody's been talking about them. He didn't make these up himself, okay?
Now, you like the fourth one down is the best one.
Oh, for assets valued in excess of $100,000, any increase in the value will be taxed as ordinary income, even if the asset is not sold. So you have
So what does that mean?
maybe precious metals, you have some kind of an asset that you bought a long time ago.
You have your house.
Yeah, it will pertain to your house. I'm thinking about when we were working, I had what in education is known as a TSA. It's the same as like a 401k or something like that. And I didn't put that much money in the time. This was like 30 years ago, okay? Well, it's worth a whole lot more now than when it was then. They want to tax it, even if it's still in the savings account and I haven't taken it out. They want to tax it, okay?
So the bottom line is they want you to pay taxes on money you haven't received yet.
Yeah, that's right. Right. It's like theoretical, It's got this value. Or like you mentioned, your house. This really should hit home with everybody, okay? You buy a house, you know that over the lifetime, your house is going to appreciate. Property almost always does that, unless you live in the middle of one of these cities that pertaining to riots. But anyways, and so they want, this proposal would want to tax you on how much your house appreciated each year, okay? Each year. That's a crazy idea because it's not real money until you sell it, all right? You go to sell it, you appreciate it, then you'll pay the tax. No, they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait for you to decide to sell it. They want it now.
Yeah, and they want it a year by year by year. Every year they want you to value your assets, stocks and bonds, your house, whatever other things you may have, and pay tax on the appreciation, again, even if you're still holding it and haven't realized any profit from having it.
This proposal fits into a particular category that I've thought up. Colossally stupid. Right? That's a colossally stupid idea, right? To tax people on money that it's on paper, but they don't actually have possession of it. That's nuts. Okay, but that's what happens when you have an income tax like ours. People in Congress are very creative, and like I've said before, they have an unquenchable thirst for our money, and there's all kinds of ways for them to figure out ways to get to our money.
I need to ask you something.
Sure.
Why do people put up with that?
If I could answer that.
Why do people put up with a tax system that is infested with lobbyists, that can be changed on a whim, and that you have very little say in them? And whatever the tax code says, you have to do. That's one of the beauties of the fair tax.
That's right.
If you have the fair tax, when you're taxed on your spending, you have control over how much tax you pay by your spending decisions.
Exactly.
Do you want to pay the fair tax on a car? Good, buy a new one. Do you not want to pay the fair tax on a car? Buy a used one. Your choice.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. You do have control.
Have we significantly, or at least sufficiently, described the magnitude of the problem we're up against?
Yes, and yes, as much as I was surprised by your desire for a Cat 5 hurricane, we
Yes.
do need a Cat 5 political hurricane up in Washington to wipe away this tax code. All right,
And
yank
let me
it
tell
out
you,
by the roots.
The flat tax is just a tropical depression.
Yeah.
Okay? People will tell you that the flat tax will take care of this. The flat tax is a weak tropical depression. The fair tax is a Cat 5, and I'm going to call it a Cat 6 hurricane against the current income tax system. It is the only tax reform proposal that just entirely replaces the income tax system as we know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again,
So
the
that's
flat tax.
that's a good analogy.
Yeah, the flat tax is still an income tax. It still retains the IRS. It still retains withholding. Still retains payroll taxes. All of those things go away with a fair tax.
Okay. So we need to kind of wrap it up and do our call to action.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We got about 3 minutes to go here.
Yeah. Okay. So we
That was fun.
it was, and we could do another hour on this
Yeah,
because there's so much material.
And again,
But-
we're right here in the midst of hurricane season in
Yeah,
Florida. So again,
yeah.
we don't wish any hurricanes on anybody in the Gulf. There's one headed for Texas
No,
now.
we just are hoping for political hurricanes to wipe away the income tax.
Yeah, and we need your help to do it. And here's how you can get on board
Yeah.
with it.
Well, the first thing is join the national group, the Americans for Fair Taxation. All right, you go to fairtax.org and give them your name and your contact information. They will not share it with anybody. You won't get spam because you signed up at fairtax.org. They never sell or share your information. But increasing their database helps them. It helps them with their lobbying efforts, you know, when they talk to people in Congress. And if you care to, you can
That's
donate.
good lobbying.
Yeah, and that's cool. Yep. And if you care to, you can donate to them because they do have monthly expenses up around 10 grand. So, all right.
There's something else that we haven't mentioned in a while here. There are several states that are looking to implement a state level fair tax, getting rid of their state income tax. Alabama, Georgia, Nebraska, I think is the list of the ones. So if you're in any one of those 3 states, get on board with your state organization and help make that happen at the state level, because I guarantee you, once they see a fair tax style tax at a state level and see how well it works, and people get the prebate, and people no longer get the state taxes withheld from their paycheck, and you see how well it works, folks are going to like it, and they say, well, now we need to do that nationally.
Yeah. And that was one of the next items.
The first mover advantage will go to those states.
That's right, yeah. So join your local state organization. When you go to fairtax.org, you can, flip through the drop-down menus, and you can find if there's an organization in your state. Give them a call, send them an email, see if there's something you can do. If you're busy working and raising a family, we understand, but there's some simple things that you can do too. So
download the free FTPR app.
Yep.
Listen to Fair Tax Power Radio on your phone.
That's
Share
right.
these videos with your family and friends and coworkers. Go to whitehouse.gov/contact and tell the president to get on board with this Cat 5 hurricane and blow away the income tax system. He likes to think big. Now, whether you like him or not, you got to give him credit for he liking to think big.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yep. And popvox.com. We had a whole program on popvox.com recently. Okay. That's a site where you can go and weigh in on any pending legislation such as H.R. 25.
Indeed.
And say whether you like it, whether you're for it or against it. And we know everybody watching is for it.
All right.
All right.
Well, we're out of time. That's going to wrap up this edition of Fair Tax Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
The Fair Tax Guys reminding you again that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
You'll demand it. Thanks, folks.
So what do you need from me to get these taxes collected?
Glad you asked, because there is a fair amount of information you need to be aware of.
That's your tax plan?
Oh, no, this is just the revisions for this year's tax plan. What I need from you is you need to keep track of all of your income, as well as any taxes that you've already paid. Also, any gifts that you received or gifts you've given to churches or charities or individuals throughout the entire year. Do you do any side jobs?
Every now and again?
Great, because there's some more information about that right here. Everything you need to know right here. So just simply compile that, send it in to us. Be careful, make sure there's no mistakes. If we do find mistakes were made, we can fine you or, throw you in jail. So you might want to be aware of that.
And what do you need from me?
As an individual, nothing. As a business owner, or if you're doing side jobs, I mean, yes, you would have to collect taxes on that, but, well, hey, it's all right here.
Can I get a copy of that?